So here we have another vlog, but this time I have my dad here with me, so we're just gonna kind of discuss a few things and kind of share it with you guys.
Well, I wanted to take the opportunity to educate some of you young folks.
Educate.
Now, you're all familiar with John David, JD. I usually call him Hey You. And the reason for that is one day he asked, why didn't the farmers name all the little piggies? And he says, you never name something that you might have to kill. Is that right, boy one? And I can't understand all this.
Wait, boy one. I'm the only child.
Okay, child one. Never know, I might have to put you down. One of the other things I want to talk about is, first off, I hope that I don't get any kind of computer virus from this. I already have a cold. And I can't understand all this fascination with these online games and stuff that John David plays. He's always wanting to get me involved in them, but I don't know anything about them PMSs and S-boxes and Woos and all that. When I was growing up, we didn't have a whole lot to play with. Usually we just had a stick. And you could have a lot of fun with the stick. You could hit people with it.
Pretend it was a spear.
Poke them.
Yeah.
Or you could run down the sidewalk against a picket fence and make a noise and went blah 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 blah.
And a lot of the times the older men that would come out of their house would say, get away from the fucking lawn.
Well, I still remember the one boy that we was friends with took his stick and he was going down and he was trying to make the noise, but he was just doing it against the side of a building. He wasn't the brightest crayon in the entire box. And he couldn't understand what was wrong. We told him his stick was broke.
And why was it that you hung out with this kid?
Because he is funny. and so we played with the stick, and a lot of times if you were lucky you found a really good stick, but most of the times they're kind of mediocre. And like I said, you had a lot of fun. You could hit the other kids with it or poke them, but the day came when your stick finally broke. And when that happened, all you had was two short sticks, and they weren't good for a fucking thing. The only thing you could use them for is make a fire. If you made a fire, you could find another stick and sharpen the end of it and stick it in the fire so it would be nice and sharp. Then you could poke people with it and it'd draw blood. Yep. Educate you guys.
What?
Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, God.
I want to know, I'd like to think that most of you guys are watching Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead, or Z Nation, so you're got some idea what's going to happen when the zombie apocalypse hits. And people don't put much faith in there being a zombie apocalypse, but let me make a couple of points. A few years ago, the Center for Disease Control actually had a test run where they acted like there was a zombie apocalypse to see how well they were prepared, what they needed to do, and where they were lacking in knowledge. And then just last week in the newspaper, some group in the U.S. did a study naming the cities best able to cope during a zombie apocalypse. And one of the cities was Columbus, Ohio. They were number 3. But I argue against that. See, I live in a little town of 8,000 people in a rural community.
I thought it was 10,000 now.
10,000, 8,000. 2,000 isn't any different in the zombie apocalypse. It all comes down to dead walking around. That's why I won't live near a cemetery.
We're already close enough.
Well, we're not so close that the shrieks of the people that's getting eaten isn't going to
Affect us that night.
We'll hear it. But anyway, where I live, a lot of people hunt, and they have guns, and I'm not talking guns like the people in the cities have, the thugs that walk around and think that you shoot a gun like this. So I think we'd be better prepared. And if you're living in a big city, I suggest you move to some place where you have hunters around and people that raise their own food and can and stuff, because that's going to give you the best chance to survive. Otherwise, you're just another person walking around looking for a brain. Ain't that right, child one? You got anything to add?
Not that I get sponsored by them, but as of recently, to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, I've been looking up some of the places to find some pretty good zombie killing weapons. And I found
better than a stick.
Yeah, better than a stick.
Wow.
Way better than a stick. Although melee, not firearm.
Oh.
Yeah. There were some that they tested online, on other videos. They turned out pretty good. Although, probably wouldn't buy the quote unquote zombie katana. I honestly don't trust a katana that wasn't, handmade. It's more likely to break than a real katana would.
Yeah, but you can't afford a real katana.
No, but during the zombie apocalypse, when hell breaks loose, I bet I could find one real fucking easy. And what happens then after hell has broken loose and there is nobody to assume control to take purchase over items?
Oh, that brings up where you're going to live during a zombie apocalypse.
In the fucking woods?
And my advice for most of you would be to find a place that's easily defensible, doesn't have a whole lot of windows to it. And my first thought on that subject would be to go to Sam's Club. The reason you want to go to Sam's Club is there's all kinds of supplies in there. There's only one entrance, and the zombies can't come in because you need a membership to go to Sam's Club.
Wait, what do you mean only one entrance? What about the entrance where they, put the freight in and whatnot?
Oh, those are easy to keep closed. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can always back a truck up to it or something.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam's Club would be a good choice. There's lots of stuff there.
What about Costco?
I don't know. Do you need a membership to go to Costco?
I think so.
Now, that might be the same then, because if the zombies don't have a membership, they won't be allowed in.
Plus, it's not run by a Walmart company.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Walmart.
I would disagree with that with all the shit that's been going on. Not only with our Walmart, but, say recently I had read about how that there was a Walmart out west that had to be shut down because they were too stupid to search the bathrooms, and keep an eye on it. And here we find out that there was a heroin lab in the bathroom.
That was a meth lab.
Whatever the case is, drug lab in a bathroom to a Walmart.
Well, see, that's one of the problems with Walmart is they seem to attract every nutcase in the county.
Nutcase in the county? You mean every nutcase in the U.S.?
Yeah, but some places don't have a Walmart.
They should consider themselves blessed.
Anything else you want to talk about?
On the subject of stuff from when you were younger, why don't you tell a couple of all the kiddies some of the stuff you would do when you were younger?
Well, when I was younger, I had a tendency to try and climb everything. And so I'd climb trees and I'd get so far and end up falling and then landing on my head.
That's why he has a soft spot now.
And one time I climbed the stepladder in our garage and fell off that and landed on the concrete on my head. The other kids went in and told my mom that Johnny Joe fell off the ladder and now he won't wake up. So I got to go to the emergency room. And see, my nickname was Johnny Joe because my name's John Joseph. But most of the kids just thought that Joe was our last name, so they'd come up to the door and they'd knock and they'd go, "Mrs. Joe, can Johnny come out and play?" And then there was the time that two kids were riding on our rocking horse, which you kids probably don't even know what it is.
Let me explain to them
Okay.
in their terms. A rocking horse for you bitches is a fake ass horse made of wood that you fucking rock on. And that was it.
And it was on springs, and they rocked forward too far, and the little wooden head got stuck in the crossbar. So I was standing over top of it, hitting it, and the head came loose and come up and caught me underneath the chin and knocked me out again. And so the kids had to go in and tell my mom that Johnny was playing with the rocking horse, and now he won't wake up. So I spent a lot of time sleeping when I was younger. Not on purpose.
Not by choice.
I cut my sister's hair one time. She was maybe 2 years old, 1.5. She had beautiful, what they called platinum blonde hair, and I pulled the steps out in the bathroom, the drawers, and used them as steps, and then opened the cabinet doors and climbed up the shelves and got the barber scissors. And I sat her down on some newspapers, and I cut her hair. In some places I only took a little bit off, and then other places it was right down almost the scalp. And she never even liked Mom to cut her bangs. And my mom says, "How'd you get her to sit still so well?" I says, "Well, every time she moved, I hit her." And you do that often enough and they won't move. And what else did I do when I was little?
Your sister's Barbie.
Oh yeah, my sister had a Barbie doll that there's a little
Now, before you go on, to this day, they still fucking argue about the idea whether it was a crank or the button system. He claims it was the crank.
It was a crank, and she says you pushed a button.
Because they had made two models. They both did the same action, but the earlier version was a crank, the later version was a button.
So anyway, what that little crank or button was for was you could take her hair and make it shorter, so she had a shorter hairdo, or you could loosen it and she could have it long. Well, I cranked it so hard that all the hair went into her head, and then she had the first chemo Barbie.
Why don't you tell them about some of your buddies, like what you would do against your friend's younger brother? Constantly fucking with him.
Oh. Well, one of my best friends had a younger brother, and there used to be uptown. There was a little soda shop. They had the little wrought iron, tables and chairs and that. And after school, we'd go in there, we'd all get something to drink, And they actually had sarsaparilla, which is like a different version of root beer.
Not the same thing. It's...
Not the same, but similar. And so Ron and I would be sitting there, would be drinking our pop, and Russ and his buddy would come over and sit down. And just as Russ would start to take a sip, Ron would say, "How's your pop, John?" I'd go, "It's piss warm." And then Russ would go, "I can't drink this." So we get a free pop. And then one year, it was right around this time of year, but it was actually a little bit earlier because it was just before Halloween. Russ and his buddy were walking up a street that didn't have a whole lot of street lights, and we happened to turn the corner, we seen them. And I told Ron, I says, "Watch this." And I got all bent over, and I went running up, and I was real quiet until I got close enough they could hear the footsteps, and I was like this, and they turned around, looked, and went, and their eyes bugged out about this big, and they went running off. Yeah, we were nice. Then there's the time me and a couple of buddies went out and we had been drinking, and on the way home, we were driving through the country, and in all the driveways that had the little reflectors, we took the reflectors out, and we kept the trunk open, and we'd throw the reflectors in, and then we'd get back in the car and go down, and we'd see another set, and we'd jump out, and we'd get the reflectors. And the next morning, my buddy counted, there was like 146 reflectors or something like that. He had a whole bunch of them lined up on both sides of his driveway.
Yeah, bet the people could see his house then.
And I had three best friends when I was growing up. There was Ed, Mark, and Randy, who we called Chop, and me. And Mark was 6'4", Ed was 6'3", and Randy was almost 6 foot.
And there was you, the shortest one out of the group.
I'm like 5'6", so I was the short guy in the bunch. And when we went someplace, I had to walk twice as fast just to keep up with them, because I got these little short, stubby legs. They're about a long.
He's bullshitting you.
And one Saturday we went out and we played 36 holes of golf. And then we went to a place in Akron called the Coliseum, and they had like 100 lanes of bowling, and we bowled like 10 games or something. And they had a putt-putt golf course, and we went around the course 3 or 4 times, played pinball, and it was like about 8:30 at night. We were leaving from there, and we realized we hadn't eaten all day. And we pulled into an A&W root beer stand, and the speaker was on my side, and I asked everybody what they wanted. So I pressed the button. I says, we want 8 Papa Burgers, which was 2 double burger. We want 8 of those. We wanted, I think it was like 6 large orders of French fries, and they used to have, it looked like a megaphone. It was a quart of root beer. I says, we want 4 quarts of root beer. And the lady says, which cars are you in? And it's like, just the one. Just the one. And a lot of times on Friday night we'd call the York Pizza Shop uptown, and we'd all order large pizzas. Mine was always mushroom, sausage, and green pepper.
Didn't like pepperoni back then?
No. And then everybody else had their pizza. And we'd always use a fake name when we called up there. Well, it wasn't like we were stiffing them, you know. We were going up to get the pizza, but back then one of the wrestlers that was really famous was called Pampero Firpo. And so I always had to call. They made me call, and so I'd place the order. I want this large pizza, this one. Lady would say, okay, it'll be a number 14, because they had little warmers that you got your pizza out of. She'd say, what name is this? I'd say, Pampero Firpo. How do you spell that? Firpo. Pampero Firpo. Firpo. Okay, Mr. Firpo, it'll be ready in 25 minutes. So we'd get our pizzas, we'd have pop and that, and I'd get done. I'd eat all my pizza. Ed D'Alessandro, who's Italian, would eat all his pizza.
Of course he would.
Mark would eat about 3/4 of his pizza, and then Chop would only eat about half of his. And then after we were all done eating, Ed would start eating the leftovers.
Of course he would.
Yeah. But we had a lot of fun growing up.
I think I actually been running into Ed quite a bit at work. Yeah. He's been asking how you've been doing.
One of the things that we used to do when we were little was we'd have all the video games and the PSMs and PMSs or whatever it is. We'd have all those. So we had to make our own fun, so we'd go outside and play. We'd play hide and go seek and kick the can, tag, play wiffle ball. All kinds of exciting things. In fact, I can remember my dad got
Pong machine.
one of the first video games that we ever saw that we hooked up at home, and it was Pong. And all it is that little thing going back and forth, and you make the little...
Dad, the majority of my friends are nerds. I think they know what Pong is.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we thought that was the coolest thing ever. That was hot shit.
And I guess my grandpa didn't understand a fucking thing.
And then I still remember the second really exciting game we got was we got the original Mario Brothers, and we also had the Duck Hunt. And to show you how bright we are, we never realized that Duck Hunt was a 2-person game, that one person could control the duck and the other person shot at it. We just shot at it. We used to try and kill that fucking dog. That dog was...
Such an asshole.
He was annoying. He was the most annoying piece of shit you ever seen.
I think when we're done with this vlog, I'm going to try to show him this fan game to where you actually get to kill the dog.
Oh, I'd love that. So hopefully I've educated some of you people. Stay off step ladders and high places unless you got something soft to land on. Don't make the mistake I did.
You, anything else you want to maybe talk about?
No, I'll have to think of something. We'll do this again sometime, whatever it's called.
Well, you want to tell them anything about like your worth ethic of some of the shit you did when you were younger?
I did a lot of shit when I was younger.
Well, yeah, no, but a lot of it's kind of neat.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe tell them that story about the strike you witnessed.
Oh, I've had a lot of jobs through the years. I worked as a security guard, a private investigator, a painter. Anyway, I was working security, and the company that I was working at went out on strike, and they brought extra people in to help. And we had one person would go around, and at every driveway of the building, the strikers had set up little huts to keep warm.
Shit shacks.
And they'd have like a metal barrel outside that they'd burn scrap wood in to keep warm. And one of them, they actually put a little stove in there. And the one night I went by, because I was checking, and nobody was in there, but the fire was going. I guess somebody didn't show up to do their shift or whatever. And the next time I came around the front of the building, the thing had caught fire. And by the time the fire department got there, it pretty much burned down. And they accused the company of burning it, and I told them, I said, well, you guys had a fire going and nobody showed up to work there. But truth be told, we weren't really, the company and myself weren't really upset that the place had burned. I could tell you about the time my buddy took us to a party. I don't know if you ever heard this.
I might have. Why don't you go ahead?
It was New Year's Eve, and I drove up to Talmadge to see my buddy, and we were gonna go someplace, a bar or something. And I got up there. He says, "Hey, a friend of mine says that he knows where there's a party. Do you want to go?" I said, "Yeah, we'll go." So we go to this place, and it was a little house. And we went in, and they says, most everybody's downstairs in the basement. And we went downstairs the basement, and there was like these tires and handlebars and fuel tanks and stuff hanging on the wall and off the ceiling and stuff. And it was about that time we realized that this was a biker's hangout. And when we come back upstairs and started back in the living room, we saw a big clear plastic bag that had this green leafy material in it.
Medicinal herb.
And I told my friend Chop, I says, you know, if the cops come here, we're not getting out until we look like we're from Duck Dynasty with beards down to here. But,
of course, back then, Duck Dynasty didn't exist.
Yeah. I just said we'd have long fucking beards. But, then there's the time that we used to go to a bar up in Wadsworth called Laconie's. That's where all the younger kids, or the younger people hung out. You know, you had to be 18 because they had beer and stuff. And the one night, I'm ashamed to admit this, but the one night the owner caught me with one of the glass pitchers underneath my leather jacket walking out the door. And he says, "What's under the jacket?" I went, "Nothing." He says, "Let's see." I opened my coat up. He says, "Okay." He says, "I don't want you to come back in here for at least 2 weeks." He says, "I can't believe you did that." And I went, I says, "What about the 8 classes that I got at home because they had the 8 mugs because they had great big beer mugs, you know, nice clear. He says, "They'll come back for at least a month." Yeah. So.
Now,
I think we've talked long enough. These people are going to be bored in the first 3 minutes, and here it is, 25 minutes and 12 seconds.
you won't believe how long some of my podcasts go on for.
Really?
Yeah, some of those go on for like 1 or 2 hours.
Huh.
You know, that's what we do is Logan and I shoot the breeze, or sometimes it's Ryan too, you know. But kind of discuss this kind of shit, and we go off on tangents and discuss other shit instead. Now, to show you the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, I'm going to tell you one of my stories when I was younger.
This is about the raw bacon?
No, I'll go into that one later. But, you see, Dad got the wise idea at a young age to tell me a story of something that happened that when he went on vacation in Canada. You want to tell him that story?
Well, I was like 3 or 4 years old, and my parents took us for a vacation up in Canada, and all my dad's family would be up there. And it was like one of these places where you have little cabins, but then you went to a dining hall and had your meals. And there's a guy up there that I got to be really friendly with, and I was only, like I said, 3 or 4 years old. And this guy went into the outhouse, and I turned the block of wood that latched the door shut, and he couldn't get out.
Couldn't he turn it from the other side?
No.
Why not?
Because it was just there so that the door would stay open when nobody was using it.
Oh.
And then he had one on the inside that he could turn. Okay? So everybody wondered where Mr. So-and-so was because he always took his meals at the dining hall. And finally, after supper was over, somebody was walking by where the outhouses were, and they heard him yelling for help. So that's the story. One of the stories of what I did when I was younger.
How this comes into play is when I was about
3.
Yeah, 3. Had to be not too long after I got my cast off, right?
Yeah.
My dear mother went down to the basement.
Well, John had been in a cast for a while, and you know, you have those little things that you sit in and you can propel yourself. We didn't want him to accidentally open the basement door up and go down the steps. So we put one of those little hooks to keep the door closed.
Well, I was smart enough to figure out that I could push a chair close enough to that door to where I could get up on it and then reach that hook. And after dear mother had gone down to the basement to take care of laundry, I hooked the hook and moved the chair back, and well, she called Dad and she yelled. I guess she yelled for a little bit, but
I was watching TV. Don't interrupt my stories.
you were watching like a cartoon, if I remember.
It was Ren and Stimpy.
So, you're gonna leave your poor wife hanging there?
Why? She was interrupting Ren and Stimpy. It was probably the episode where Stimpy was playing the harmonica. Yee.
That's an accordion.
Oh, yeah, that's right, an accordion. Harmonica's like this. Yee.
Well, long story short, when Dad finally did come over to let her out, she was not happy. And
Wish I had a nickel for every time she wasn't happy.
we'd be rich.
Yeah.
Really fucking rich. But it only took about 2 seconds for her to figure out who the culprit was. And I ran my little ass back to my room, laughing the whole way.
How about the golf club?
When I got a little bit older, maybe
4 or 5.
I'd say about 3.5 for.
Yeah.
Because I got that for Christmas.
Oh, you got that for your birthday from your Aunt Di.
I thought it was for Christmas.
Oh.
No. I got it for my birthday. It was a very first golf set, and had a driver
That had a head on it about this big.
a little bit bigger actually, because it had to make room for a little plastic piece that would, when you would whack it, it would make a noise like a drum.
Oh, the plastic piece was across the front like a drum.
Yeah, but it needed to be big enough and to be able to fit
And
that.
Dad was sitting reading the Sunday paper one day.
And somehow I got the wise idea to just whack him over the head with the fucking thing. Like, real good.
You know how you see on TV or on the cartoons when somebody gets hit in the head, they see stars? I actually did. I mean, I seriously saw stars. He hit me so hard, I had a bump on my head that was this big around.
Bullshit.
And he hit me, started giggling until I said something like, "What the fuck is this?" And I dropped the paper and I grabbed the golf club out of his hand, and he was still laughing like he is now. And he took off running down the hallway towards his bedroom, and I took the club and I threw it like this. And if he
You
had
just barely missed
if he
me.
had ducked into his bedroom, I'd have took his legs out right out the bedroom.
Shit.
Good times.
Nope.
Good times.
No worse than the fun you would have with your friend.
So,
His friend's daughter finds it funny.
we'd pick on little Melissa. My buddy had a bunch of pillows on his couch, you know, and Melissa would sit there and start running around and would take a pillow and would throw it and knock her legs out from under her. And she thought that was the funniest thing ever. So she'd start running all around, then she'd run down the hall of their mobile home, and we'd get to the point where we'd throw it up in the air and bounce it off of the wall, and a lot of times would catch her just right and knock her down. So that was one way of keeping occupied. Not talking about the bacon boy.
I still don't understand how I can still like bacon after this. Now, this tells you how the first time had to be about like 5.
No, first time you're about 4.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because we're still living out the old place.
Were we?
Yeah. Both times. You
Oh.
were little. You might have been 3.
Okay. Well, considering all the time I would spend with my Meemaw, and how just about every breakfast I'd have bacon and eggs, I got a real acquired taste for bacon. So, I didn't realize that bacon had to be cooked. So I opened up the fridge and I saw bacon sitting there. I'm like, oh, I've had myself a treat. Get some bacon. It tasted just fine, but here I found out, maybe half an hour later, boy, I tell you,
He hurled.
oh, I gotta say, if Ipecac don't work, how about try raw bacon?
And that story isn't bad enough.
I didn't learn the first time, considering I didn't realize it was the bacon. I did it again. So this happened 2 times.
And I'm one of those people that can't
Stand the sight of...
stand getting close to or smelling somebody's vomit, because I'll get sick. I'll lose it. So he's in his bedroom throwing up, and I'm waking my wife up and going, "He's heaving. Go take care of him."
That poor woman. So it was not too long after that, Mom and Dad, real nicely, they sat me down there, and they basically said, you know, the reason why you're getting sick is because you're eating raw bacon. So stop eating raw bacon. Oh. While I'm at it, why don't I tell them about the shirt?
Oh yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead.
So, I think by this time I am at the end of elementary or beginning of middle school. Parents had left
I
for.
think you're still in elementary.
I said, you know, well, parents had left for a while, but at this point they trust me enough where I could be by myself for at least short periods of time. And I don't quite remember exactly what I had done. I think it was just like drinking a glass of water, and somehow I ended up missing my lip completely. So there I was, drenched. Now the parents, they never really told me how long I could do this for without causing a problem. But there have been times in which I'd be getting ready for school and I'd find out my, the shirt or the pants I was going to have ready for in the morning were still damp, like it didn't fully dry. So mom or dad, I remember, don't do this, but mom or dad, they would toss the clothes in the microwave for a little bit of time and they would steam it dry and then it would be ready for when I got to school. So I tried doing the same thing. But, that's a big but, because of the thought, I thought, with how drenched it is, I might want to put it on for more time than they did. And after getting done, it was not only smoldering, but there were burn holes in the shirt. And so because it was smoking, I had to quickly re-drench it to stop it from setting the alarm off. And then I thought it would be a wise idea to toss it into the basement because who knows, maybe they wouldn't catch on. Well, as soon as they got home, Mom had to go downstairs to get the load ready for the wash, and 2 seconds later she calls me down and she goes, "Now why in the hell do I have an avid stench of burnt shirt?" And when you're caught, you can't really do much but kind of look down. And I basically said, well, I put the shirt in the microwave like you guys would, and I ended up burning my shirt. And that was back when, when we still had we were living at the house on the West Market. Well, is there anything else I should probably explain?
Yeah, if you have a pet turtle, like I did, I felt sorry for him because he was in this little bowl type thing, and there's a little island with a little plastic palm tree on it. And that, I think that could be too much fun for him, so I took him outside one day to play, and I put him down by the shrubs. And then when I came back 4 or 5 hours later, he was gone. We never did find him.
Turtles can actually move faster than you think.
Yeah, I realized that.
You also realized that, and you tried. You see, Dad tried being a good Samaritan even to the animals. And there was a few occasions where in the area we live, we're right by a creek. So when, around the spring or summertime, there's quite a few times when the water would raise up, turtles would try to go across the road. And sometimes they get stuck. So Dad, being the nice guy he is, tried picking the little fella up and setting him back so that way he could be on his merry way. Well, the little fella did not want to be picked up, and he was walking as fast as he fucking could just to not be picked up.
You'd have thought I learned my lesson about turtles when I found a turtle one time was trying to feed it grass. It kept trying to bite me. And I went home and I told my mom, and she came and she put the turtle in a box and took it to one neighbor man. It was about this big around. It was a snapping turtle, and he made soup out of it.
Was it a regular snapping turtle or an alligator snapping turtle?
It was a snapping turtle.
Well, they're both kinds of snapping turtle.
Yeah, well, it was a snapping turtle.
And is there anything else I should maybe explain about when I was younger?
Oh, I used to get to go down and visit my cousins on the farm.
Oh, you'll enjoy this one.
And we always thought it was a treat that we were able to go down. And like I said, we didn't grow up in a big city, but we weren't really on a farm or anything either, so we didn't know much about farming and any of that stuff. And it wasn't until several years later I realized that the times I got to go down and visit on the farm was when they were baling hay. And baling hay isn't fun. Nowadays you see all the great big round barrels and that, or bales and that. Back then it was rectangular bales, and the machine would kick them off and throw them in the field, and somebody had to sit there and pick them up and put them on the flatbed, and then somebody had to stack them, and then you'd get back to the barn and somebody had to put them up in the hay loft, and it was a lot of hard work, and it was dirty, and you itched, and that was most of the times that we got to go down on the farm. And my cousin Bud and I and his brother Daryl would usually go out during when the hay was all in the rows and would try and dampen down the first couple of rows, thinking maybe Uncle Donnie would come out and touch it and go, no, it's too wet to bale yet. And it never worked. Never worked. And we not only baled all the hay around his farm, I think he either loaned us out or he bought hay off of other people and we went and baled hay in other counties, and about the only thing you had to look forward to was you'd get a cold pop, cold Coca-Cola. And right down the road from where Uncle Donnie lived was his dad, and he fixed cars and he had a big junkyard. And we were taking the one tractor down for Bud's grandpa to take the post hole digger off the back of it, and it had tires on it, or chains on the tires because it had been muddy. And I was riding behind Bud on the tractor, and I saw one of the chains catch a rock that was embedded in the road, and it flipped the tractor over. And the tractor went rolling down the hill. I fell off real soon, and Bud actually stayed on until it got to the bottom, and then he kind of lowered himself from the steering wheel and reached up and turned the ignition off. And I started to walk down towards Bud, and I realized I didn't have any shoes. And we found one shoe down by the tractor, which was probably about 20 yards away. And then we found the other shoe between the tractor and the creek, which was probably another 20 yards. So, and they had horses.
Why don't you tell them about your horse?
Bud had Trigger, which was a Palomino. Daryl had a horse he called Comanche, and I can't remember what my cousin Denise's horse was named, but I always got to ride Thumper. And Thumper was retarded. We'd go for a ride. We'd ride the horses down to Grandpa Doty's, and we'd get a cold Coke. And about halfway back, about where the pond was, Thumper would realize that he was going home and that somebody was going to take the saddle off, and the fat little kid wasn't going to be riding on him anymore. And he would take off running as fast as he could. You could sit there and pull the reins as hard as you could, yell at him and everything, and he'd just keep going.
He's like, oh God, just get this over with.
And he ran as fast as he could, and he'd run right into the corral, the boards, and I'd flip off every time and land in the corral. 9 times out of 10 it was on a pile of horse shit. Or else you'd be riding, we'd go up the top of the hill, and we'd start down about halfway down, Trigger would take off, or Thumper would take off running again, and you'd have limbs hitting you in the head, leaves hitting you and everything, you'd, whoa, stop, stop, Jesus Christ, stop. And he'd keep going. Then the one time they got the bright idea, so some of our other cousins were down, we were going to have a rodeo. And they got one of the little calves, and they tied binder twine around it. And everybody was doing like the bull riding. And that went well until it was my turn, by which time the calf sat there and says, you know
Yep,
what?
I've had enough of this shit.
This is enough of this fucking shit. And like I said, I was a city kid. I didn't know to wear long jeans or anything when we were down at the farm. I had a pair of shorts on, a t-shirt, and it ran down along the corral and then up along the barn, rubbing me against it the whole way. And when I finally got off, I had splitters sticking out all over. And my cousins thought that was the most hilarious thing they ever saw. Look at the fucking idiot that's here from the city. He doesn't know what to do.
Look at the city boy. He doesn't know what the fuck to do.
We had a lot of fun, though. I remember one time it snowed real good, and Daryl woke me up, and we went out sled riding at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, why don't you tell some more about the family?
Family?
Like Mama Stada.
Now, Mama Stada, that was my dad's grandma, so it would have been my great-grandma, was from Czechoslovakia. And if she stood 5 foot tall, I'd be very much surprised. She was just a small little lady. She never did learn to speak English. She was very kind-hearted.
So how the hell did she understand you?
She did. But like I said, you know, she used to take me and put me up on her bed. She had one of those feather ticks that, you know, kind of like a comforter type thing. And she'd sit me up on there, and then she'd give me those little candies that looks like raspberries, which is why I like raspberry.
And they're filled with raspberry filling.
And then Mama Stada, that would be back about 1955 or so. So TVs weren't as
popular,
prevalent as they are now, and that you didn't have the 50-inch screens. You were lucky if you had a screen this big.
In fact, one of the first TVs had maybe like a weird little fucking screen.
It had a magnifier to go in front of it, actually.
Mm.
But she would sit there and she would walk in and she would look in at the TV and then go out. She wouldn't go clear into the room. And somebody finally asked her, why are you doing that? She says, well, I think it's a window to the neighbors. She thought she was looking in at people next door or something.
I guess what was playing might have been one of those Spanish soap operas.
But that was Mama Stada.
Anyone else you want to talk about?
Oh, there's all kinds of people.
Like who?
Well, like your Meemaw. No, Nana. Like your Nana. Her and her brothers and the neighbor kids would go for a walk, and then on the way back, when they were walking, they'd go through the cemetery, and they always had the little, you know, the spigots that you can fill up a bucket and water the flowers on, you know, somebody's grave or whatever. And everybody'd get a drink of water, and then when it was Mom's turn, she'd just start to get a sip of water, and then go, you know, that's bone juice. She'd go, what? She said, yeah, that's bone juice from the dead people. And she wouldn't get a drink of water, and she'd start crying. And no, that's okay. That's just water. And she'd go to take a sip, and then go, but it is bone juice. And she'd cry again.
Why don't you talk about Uncle Cliff and Uncle Red?
Oh, Uncle Cliff and Uncle Red were two characters, capital C. And like on Thanksgiving or Christmas when they had their meal, they'd see who could eat the most. And they'd eat a whole great big bowl of noodles or whatever. In fact, years later, Uncle Red took my sister and his stepdaughter and his wife to eat at the Greenleaf restaurant. And he had like steak or something, and they got all done, and the waitress come by and asked what everybody wanted for dessert. his wife wanted a slice of pie, and the two girls wanted ice cream sundaes. They asked him what he wanted for dessert, and he says, "I want the 6-piece chicken dinner." Yeah. And him and his best friend, back in the old days, the little store in the town they lived in would get Easter bunnies in, and they'd come in a big wooden barrel, and they weren't wrapped or anything. You just picked out an Easter, chocolate bunny and paid for it and took it home for the kid's basket. And him and his buddy the one time went in and ate the ears off of about 15 of the rabbits, and the grocer wasn't very happy.
Right.
Then Uncle Red got caught for skipping school because he did it a lot, and the town marshal caught him and was driving him back up to the school, and everybody was going to school at the time, and they were walking up the street, and Uncle Red sitting in the back of the car going like this. Yeah, he wasn't embarrassed.
He thought he was hot snot.
And what's funny is Uncle Red ended up being the marshal in Glenmont, and his best friend that helped eat the Easter bunny ears ended up being the police chief in Doylestown.
Tells you what kind of towns we come from, doesn't it, people? Why don't you tell them the story about when he decided to run his perp over?
Well, Uncle Red would take the squad car, and he'd drive around Glenmont or drive up through, some of the less, the more rural areas of Glenmont, which was, like farms that were inside the city limits. And he came down, and there was an old school that had made a community center, and he pulled into the parking lot and went to turn around, and he felt a thump. He went, "Shouldn't be anything in the parking lot back there." He opened the door up, and he saw a hand sticking out. He went, "Oh, shoot."
Pretty sure he didn't say, "Oh, shoot."
And he looked out, and it was one of the young people in the city that had a problem with doing illegal substances.
Uh-huh.
And Uncle Red had run him over, and basically part of his hair got caught in the drivetrain and just yanked it out, and he had a little bald spot about the size of a quarter. And he was bruised pretty good from getting run over, but he wasn't seriously hurt. And the guy asked Uncle Red, he says, "Why'd you run me over?" He says, "Well," he says, "they only give me one bullet. I didn't want to waste it."
You think Uncle Red would have been proud if he'd been around when I completed the Bubba?
Yeah, they'd have both been proud.
I think I got this from them, but, eating habits and whatnot. You can probably tell. But, I finally remember the name of the place that unfortunately shut down. The place was called Twigs. A little hole in the wall. And the culinary arts program I was in over at the Career Center, every year they would go to Twigs and a place up in Beechwood called Maggiano's. Twigs was in Barberton, so you'd see the high end of the spectrum as to how you could be successful in the culinary, then the low end and still be successful. Now, when you order the Bubba, the two little ladies that work there, they put a funny hat on you, and then you sit there and you wait till you have your Bubba. Comes out in a pizza tray. It's 4 eggs, 4 pieces of toast, 4 pieces of French toast, 4 pancakes, biscuits and gravy, sausage, bacon, ham. I finished mine in about half an hour. My friend Cody Decker was insane. He finished his in about 10 minutes. Then afterwards looked at the menu, said, "Oh look, they got pumpkin rolls. Chef, can I have one?" And do you want to know what happened afterwards? He felt carsick the whole fucking way home. And you know what that teaches you? Don't get an extra fucking pumpkin roll.
Well, we'll have have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we will. Well, did you learn anything?
I learned that I had fun even though I can't see anybody I'm talking to.
You might meet some of them.
I hope not.
That's something.
If they're friends of yours, that'd be kind of questionable.
Well, you know Logan.
Oh, well, yeah, I know Logan short and stout.
You know Michael.
Oh, yeah, I know Michael.
If Scott watches it, you haven't met Scott yet, but he's nice. But, yeah, they're good people.
Well, last words is prepare for the zombie apocalypse. It's coming.
Yep. Well, this is the Grimlock 88 signing out with another vlog. We'll be back. And yes, that's a threat.